I, Babukar Sanya,
I, Babakar Sanya,
do swear that
do swear that
I'll speak the truth,
I'll speak the truth,
the whole truth,
and
nothing but the truth.
nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Are you comfortable?
Yes, ma.
Thank you very much. Just some few housekeeping rules before we begin. Can you speak clearly into the mic? Speak loudly as well and slowly so that everybody can hear you and we can actually follow your testimony. Also, just so that you know what you're going to expect today, we'll be going through your testimony and I'll be covering certain topics. The first topic that we will cover would be your personal information, your educational background, your professional experience, and then we will then move on to your experience of the 1994 coup d'etat. Later on, we will go through the events of November 11th, 1994, and finally, we will stop at your own victimization and personal torture. But however, for today, we will see how far we're going to get because we might not be able to finish the testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can you tell the commissioners what your full names are?
Thank you, ma. Good afternoon, Chairman of the Commission and the commissioners here present, councils, and the general public. I am Lieutenant Colonel Babakar Sanya.
Where do you live?
Presently, I live in Lamen.
Can you tell us what your present position and rank is?
My rank is Lieutenant Colonel and appointed as the Commander Training Task Force at the Gambia Armed Forces Headquarters.
Can you tell us when and where you were born and where you grew up?
I was born in Busra village, Combo Central, Western Region, on the 6th of March, 1966. And then I was brought up in that same village.
Busora village actually found in the Gambia?
Busra village is almost 15 kilometers south of Brikama towards Dimbaya, the border.
Where did you attend? I believe I already asked you where you attended secondary school.
Actually, before the secondary school, I attended primary school in Busra. Then when I completed my primary education in 1980, I proceeded to Brikama Secondary School and then completed in 1984.
Can you tell us what you did when you completed your secondary education in 1984?
Good. After completing the secondary education in 1984, I worked at the agricultural department for some couple of months, then got selected into the army on the 11th of August 1984. Then I started my training on the 2nd of January 1985.
So you enlisted into the army in 1984?
Yes, on the 11th of August 1984, but the training started on the 2nd of January 1985.
How long did the training last?
It lasted for 4 months.
And where was it conducted?
In Yundum Barracks.
Can you tell us who was the commander at the training school then?
Good. The training school then, it was under the supervision of the BAT, that is the British Army Training Team, headed by Major Wright. And the Army commander then was Colonel Ndaunjai.
Were you deployed anywhere after you finished your recruitment training?
Actually, when I finished my training in May 16th was the day that I passed out. When I finished in 1985, basically during the recruit training, it happens that I was spotted by the British, especially Sergeant Major Allen, who spotted me, and then it's like I can be a good instructor. Then, not surprisingly, in 1987, 87 precisely, I was attached to Sergeant Major Allen as a drill movement demonstrator.
At this point, Lieutenant, what was your rank?
All right. I was a Lance Corporal, but actually before attaining the Lance Corporal rank, I was, nominated to do the Junior Inter Cadre course that I did. Then thereafter, based on my performance, I successfully, completed the course and then ended up promoted to first class.
Right. Initially, when you were recruited, you were a private, is that correct?
I was a private soldier. In fact, I was a recruit, then becomes a private soldier immediately after the passing out.
Lieutenant, you are very accomplished as, your position actually, states. As a lieutenant colonel in the Army, you're a very accomplished person. You have shared your CV with the Commission,
Yes.
And we will not really have time to go into all of your accolades and awards and different credentials. Can you just state from recruitment up to 1994, your different ranks and positions in the Army, just in summary, no need to go into much detail.
Thank you. Like I said, after my passing out, first I did a course that is Junior Inter Cadre course. Then I got promoted to Lance Corporal. Thereafter, I did the Section Commander's course, promoted to a Corporal. Thereafter, I did the Platoon Sergeant course and got promoted to a Sergeant. Then within the Sergeant, I did another course called...
Can you just, sorry to interrupt you, can you just help us with the dates as you go along? Thank you, if you can remember.
Well, okay. Actually, 1996 was when I was promoted to a Lance Corporal. Then that was, I think, around June or so. Then 1997, I was promoted to a Corporal. 98 to a Sergeant. Then, but it goes along with courses, because during those days, in the British, when the British were in charge of the training school, you cannot be promoted without doing a particular course to handle that rank. All right, so when I was promoted to a Sergeant, I did another course that is called a Tactical Cadre course. Tactical Cadre course, which I did, and then got promoted to a Staff Sergeant. That was in 1988, getting into 1989. Then from there, I did my drill and duties course. Then from the drill and duties course, I got promoted. When I was promoted to a Staff Sergeant, I did all these courses that is the drill and duties, and then the warrant officers course. Then from 1998, I was a staff sergeant. But along the line also, I was deployed to various units within the Gambia National Army. Then, that is within the companies, between Alpha Company and Bravo Company. Alpha Company in those days was the company responsible for the security, and then Bravo Company was the company responsible for ceremonial duties. And then...
Yeah, if I may just come in there. You left the training school as a drills movement instructor. And from there, where did you move to?
Well, I moved from being attached to Sergeant Major Allen as a drill movement demonstrator, not instructor. I was deployed to Bravo Company. Then
was Bravo Company within the Yundum Barracks?
Of course, yes, ma'am. Bravo Company was within Yundum Barracks, responsible for ceremonial duties. Yeah.
From there, where did you move to?
From the company, obviously, it goes down to...
Did you go to Farafenye?
Yes, I was one time deployed to Farafenye. That was 1986-87, precisely. My deployment to Farafenye was just a transition. We were deployed there to carry out a rehearsal for the possible deployment to the Confederal Battalion. So the rehearsal for that parade was done in Farafenye. I think we spent in Farafenye about either 1 month or 2 months, sort of. And we came back here. Then before finally we are deployed to Kudang.
How long did you spend in Kudang?
Kudang, if I could remember, I spent about 7 months in Kudang. Whilst in Kudang, this was around 86, 87. Whilst I was in Kudang, that was the time that I was returned to come and then do my junior incho CADA course. So immediately when I finished the CADA course, went back to Kudang. Because of the fact that I've passed the course, I was withdrawn from Kudang and attached to the training school under Sergeant Major Allen.
Can you tell us what happened next?
Like I said, with the chronological order that I've mentioned here earlier on, that goes up to 1989. Then I was a staff sergeant. Then 1991, I was supposed to be deployed to Ecomog during the first contingent, but I had another assignment on the ground at the training school. Then finally, I was deployed to Ecomog in 1991.
And how long did that mission last?
In Liberia, I was there for almost 7 or 8 months. Although we were supposed to come back at the end of the 6 months, because the tour of duty then, it was 6 months. But due to the fact that we had some logistics problems, the command, I was no flight, so we had to extend our stay there up to 7 months or 8 months, sort of.
Who was the commander of your group to Ecomog?
My company was led by Major Babakar Jata. Yes, Major Babakar Jata.
And what was this group made up of? How many soldiers actually went on the mission?
We went with a number of 150 personnel.
When you finished your mission and you returned back to the Gambia, what did you do?
Well, when I returned back from Liberia, I was attached to the RSM as a drill sergeant. The drill sergeant at Yundum Barracks.
Okay. When you returned back from ECOMOG, were you actually aware of any demonstrations that occurred within the soldiers at the time?
Yes. I was, in fact, aware of that demonstration that was done. And then some soldiers were arrested and taken to court.
Can you tell us what the circumstances around those demonstrations were, if you know?
Yes, ma. The circumstances surrounding the demonstration was like, it has to do with pay and allowance, and then probably with welfare.
Tell us what the outcome was after those demonstrations occurred.
Yeah, like I said, after when the demonstration was mounted, some soldiers were arrested, and then investigations were mounted to look into the circumstances that led to the demonstration, and then obviously through their findings, they later realized that okay, well, the soldiers acted based on, probably their allowances and then other, logistics issues, and then were arraigned before a court of law, and finally some of them got convicted.
Do you know if these allowances were later paid to them?
Yes, I think they were later paid, but it delayed.
So when you came back from ECOMOG, your mission with the ECOMOG, where did you go next?
Yes, when I came back from ECOMOG, I was in Yundum, like I said, as a drill sergeant under our RSMs, that is RSM 5, Ismaila. Then after Ismaila 5, then you have RSM Jeng. I was closely working with them.
Did RSM Jeng remain at Yundum with you?
Yes, when RSM 5 got retired, Jeng came in. So Jeng was with us there in Yundum Barracks until I think, was it 1992 or 3, when he was redeployed to the headquarters. Then RSM is Alaji Fai took over from, RSM Jeng. So along the line, I've been working with them as a drill instructor responsible for, ceremonial duties.
And as a drill instructor in Yundum, can you tell us who you were working with?
Right. As a drill instructor and then also a drill sergeant, I was there with John Gomez, who is now Major Gomez at Fajara Barracks. Alaji Kanyi. Alaji Kanyi was also a drill sergeant with us.
Can you tell us what Alaji Kanyi's rank was at the time?
Yes, Alaji Kanyi was then a corporal. But the mere fact that he was made a drill sergeant was, he was very active when it comes to drill and ceremonies. And then he likes the field. For that one, I can attest to it. But along the line, it's like he was understudying us, myself and John, and, until such a time that he was promoted to a sergeant.
This was during the period of 92, 93, 94. You remained as a drill sergeant at Yundum, working under the different RSMs at the time. Can you tell us where you were on the day of the 22nd July military takeover?
Good. The day of this military takeover, that is 22nd July 1994, met me in Farafenye. Why I was in Farafenye was based on a course, a refresher course that we went to carry out in preparation to train one of our intakes, that is intake 17.
Can you tell us, did anything happen on that particular day whilst you were doing the training?
All right, that particular day was the day that we had our teaching practice. Like, it's a sort of a test, practical test, to gauge the level of the students in the course. So it happens that by 8:30, under the supervision of Sergeant Major Abaya, a Nigerian, and then Sergeant Victor Ford. Sorry, Ford also was a drill sergeant, so we were 4 in numbers, just to put in Yundum, just to put records right. So that actually date, we were in the field doing our TP, because the program started at 8:30. So almost 30 minutes or thereabout into the TP, teaching practice, Sergeant Major Abaya was called by Colonel Saliuk. He was the training school commander by then. And then what they discussed there, actually I don't know, because we were in the field. So when Sergeant Major Abaya came back, he told Sergeant Ford to suspend the program, that there is an emergency, that we should stand down.
All right. At this point, you mentioned various soldiers, Staff Sergeant Victor Ford, Abaya, WO2 Abaya. What nationality were these soldiers?
WO2 Abaya and Sergeant Victor Ford, they are all Nigerians.
Was the commander of the army at that point also a Nigerian?
Yes, ma. That is Colonel Abubakar Dada. Sorry, General Abubakar Dada, sorry. You
mentioned at some point during your own training that it was the BAT, the British Army training team, that was actually in charge of the training school. And there was a Gambian commander at the time. Can you tell us when the Nigerians actually took over command?
The Nigerians arrived in the Gambia in 1992.
In 1994, during the military takeover, it was the Nigerians who were in command of the army.
Exactly, ma.
Can you just tell us what happened next after you received this message that there was a problem?
Immediately when we received that information from Sergeant Major Abaya, we were put on standby. But meanwhile, we were asked to go and then draw our rifles and then to be on standby.
Can you tell us approximately what time this was during the day?
Yes, it was in the afternoon, getting towards 10, 11 o'clock, yeah, between that hour.
We were asked to be on standby. For what? Can you explain?
Well, based on the information that there's emergency in Banjul, that there's something going on in Banjul, that people were, other battalions were on standby, so obviously Farafenye also will not be left out. That's why we were put on standby.
Did you do anything next?
Yes, like I said, we were asked to go and then draw our rifles and then be on standby.
Did you go anywhere?
Whilst we were in Farafenye, within the guard room end, around 12 o'clock, we were gathered again and then given the instructions that there's an instruction that the command should deploy troops to Bara from Farafenye. So it happens that most of us who came from here to Farafenye to attend that course were part of, the soldiers who were, in fact, handpicked or nominated or selected to take the North Bank to Para.
Who gave you those instructions?
The instructions actually came from Lieutenant Jiba, that is Sam Jiba, together with Yankuba Ture. Yes, but when the information came, when they came and then gave us the instructions that, okay, well, we'll be going to Farafenye, the first thing that became an obstacle was the means of transport.
Before we get there, Mr. Witness, can you just tell us what the position of Jiba and Ture were?
They were all platoon commanders.
They were leading the group.
Yes, immediately when that nomination was made, that this is the group that should take the North Bank coming down to Bara, they were nominated. That is Sam Jiba being the senior one, seconded by Yankuba Ture, for us to come.
So how did you get to Bara?
Like I said, the first obstacle that we encounter was the means of transport. Then there was no transport in Fajar Barracks at that particular time. So we were just, standing there, doing nothing. Then all of a sudden, the issue of, getting civilian vehicle came in. That was, in fact, it was initiated by LF Jame within the soldiers. But from the officers where that idea was initiated, I don't know. But it was LF Jame who brought that idea to us.
So LF Jame was one of the soldiers in your group?
Very well.
Can you tell us what the size of your group was? How many soldiers were actually involved in the mission?
Actually, it has been taken a very, very long time. I will not be able to ascertain the figure.
You also mentioned that you took weapons from the armory before you left for the mission. Can you tell us what kind of weapons you were armed with?
Those were AK-47. AK-47.
So you mentioned that you started commandeering civilian vehicles, or you attempted to do so. Can you just tell us a little about what you actually did?
All right. When the information reached us that, well, the situation is like we don't have any transport, so what we have to result in getting civilian trucks, Obviously, yes, we took action by commandeering one vehicle, one truck, just by along the highway. If you know Farafenye, just by the highway. Some soldiers stood there and then directed one truck into the barracks. So when the vehicle came, the driver was instructed that, well, he's going to take us to Bara. But actually, definitely, the driver was not that much comfortable. He was telling people that, okay, he's on a mission, that they hired him, but like soldiers, once they need your service, it is their service first before your personal service. So this is how it happens. And then when the vehicle came, we were asked to board. Then we bought the vehicle. Then the driver was asked to drive to the petrol station in Farafenye. So when we went to the petrol station, we stopped, and the driver, in fact, as we were going, he wasn't comfortable. So immediately when we arrived at the petrol station, he just divorced from his vehicle and then just walk about some few minutes and squat there. Then some of the soldiers went to talk to the fuel attendant at the time, because the issue was that we were supposed to fuel the vehicle without paying, So when they talked to the guy, I understand the guy told them that, well, he had to consult his boss before he could allow or he could fuel the vehicle. So when the guy went to inform his boss, we were so in a hurry So the soldiers, in fact, started pumping. You know, those days, even there was no electricity, you can still pump, you know, by using, you know, manual means. So instead of pumping gasoline, they mistakenly pumped petrol into the truck. So that resulted, you know, in the vehicle having a breakdown. We could not move. So within that, you know, instant, another truck was commandeered, and then this is how we got the truck to go to Bara. But that truck, in fact, when the driver came, and then we relayed him, he was informed about the mission. First thing, his apprentice, in fact, they abandoned the vehicle. It was only the driver, because he cannot abandon the vehicle. But the apprentice, they left.
Can you tell us what the size of this vehicle was?
No, it was a mini truck. A mini truck, not that much big. These gele trucks.
I'm just trying to establish the size of your group.
Yeah.
Was it up to the size of a platoon?
No. It was
So you were less than a platoon?
Less than a platoon.
But can you just give us an approximate number, if you can remember?
Probably 15 or so. Actually, I cannot remember. It's a long time.
When you eventually got the vehicle and the driver to take you to Bara, what time are we talking about? What time was that?
It was in the afternoon, after 12, thereabout, getting to 1 or 2.
So you started your journey. Can you tell us what happened along the way?
Yes. When the vehicle got fueled, and then we started the journey, we went straight to Kerewan, and then at Kerewan, as we are entering the, Kerewan, we met some policemen, you know, manning the checkpoint. It was only one policeman who was manning the checkpoint, but then the rest of the policemen were just sitting down, playing draft. So we stopped, and then find out, you know, as to whether they have any idea about what is happening in Banjul. But they inform us that no, they are not aware of anything taking place in Banjul. So from there, we proceeded to the area council. Then at the area council, we met one man called Alkali Jawara. I know him personally. So when we met Alkali Jawara there, in fact, we asked him the same question as to what is happening. He said, well, he is not aware, whether he is aware of anything going on in Banjul. He said no, he is not aware of anything going on in Banjul. So this is how we left the council.
During your journey, did you receive any other information from anyone?
Like what? Ma?
You were traveling with a bunch of soldiers led by Jiba and Ture.
Yes.
Did you receive any information from them?
Well, as we proceeded to the ferry crossing point, luckily enough, we found the ferry on our side, that is the Kerewan side, and there was no waste of time. We just embarked. We boarded the ferry, and as we start sailing, it is during that process that young Kubature now disclosed to us that what actually was taking place in Banjul was a military coup. So when he, you know, disclosed this information, some of us, we became surprised. I mean, it's like we cannot just imagine it. Then, after when we dispersed, because in the ferry we were together, he called us, and then we gathered, and then he disclosed that, well, what actually was happening in Banjul was a military coup. So immediately when he dispersed, I heard Lieutenant Jiba, Sam Jiba, saying in Wolof, hey, sude coup d'etat man bokumachi. Meaning that if it is a coup, he is not part of it.
Did he say this in the presence of Yankuba Ture?
Not at all. Not at all.
Did you proceed with your journey at this point?
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened?
After when
next?
we crossed, then we moved straight to Bara. Then Bara, we went to Fort Bullen. But like actually, before Fort Bullen, there is a building. Before Fort Bullen, that's where we lodge. And then we use Fort Bullen as our observation post. That's where we mount our, sentries.
Why did you use Fort Bullen as an observation post?
Looking at the structure, it has a higher level, platform, and then you can easily, observe at a very long distance, and then notice of any movement going on around.
So what did you do next?
At Fort Bullen, immediately when we arrived, LF Jammeh, I think with either two guys or so, went in town. What he went there for, actually, it was not known to us. And who authorized him to go, we were not privy to know that. But later he came back. So when he came back, with a couple of minutes, we saw one man. He, LF Jammeh, in fact, told us that yes, he went to this guy. That happens to be, I think he was the chief of Nyomi, something Mane, Tabora. Then he came, and then we greeted each other. Then we asked, in fact, it was Young Bature who asked him. Then he was explaining also that they had, that soldiers, were moving from Yundum to State House to see the president. Even some of their guys from Nyomi who wanted to cross to Banjul were asked to go back. So there was no movement at all. Then he left, he went. He did not spend even 30 minutes with us.
But at this point, you had already received information from Yankuba Toure about what was actually going on in Banjul, so you knew.
Yes, yes.
Also, when Yankuba Toure told you about the coup, did he tell you who else was involved, who was involved in the coup or how it was planned? Did he give you any further information?
He did not. He only told us that, what actually was happening there, the soldiers moving up and down, was a coup.
Looking at the actions of Yankuba Toure previously, as well as LF Jammeh, did you have any suspicions about their own involvement in the coup?
At that time, no. At that time, no.
But would you say that they were very eager to get to Banjul?
Of course, that was well from Farafenye. Because, like I said, for us, when that announcement was made at Farafenye, we started wondering as to what might have happened that will lead the soldiers to move about. So, but with LF Jammeh and Yankuba Toure, the way they were moving, it's like they were in a hurry for us to leave Farafenye and then get to Para. For what reason, I don't know.
So you got to Bara and you got to Fort Bullen, which was your observation point. Did anything else happen?
Yes. I told you that we left Farafenye with two officers. That is Sam Jiba being the senior man and then Yankuba Toure. But immediately when the information got to us, Sam Jiba is like, he has already cleared himself that he's not part of it. So when we arrived in Bara, Yankuba Toure crossed with some men. Actually, I'm not sure whether that was the very day that he crossed or the following day, but he crossed before us, and then he went to Banjul.
Can you tell us who the men were that he crossed with?
One, he crossed with LF, with some, but actually I cannot remember.
After they crossed, what happened?
after they crossed, we were there. Then thereafter, we also crossed by using one of the Navy boats. In fact, Yankuba Toure also crossed with using the Navy boats. When we crossed also, we went to the Navy base and reported.
Okay, you say that Yankuba Toure crossed by boat and subsequently Sam Jiba and the group, which included you, also crossed by boat. Can you tell us who made those arrangements for the boat to come and collect you, and where did the boat come from?
It must have been Yankuba Toure because he was very active in trying to, communicate across.
Yeah, please, can you tell us where this boat actually came from and collected you?
Yeah, the boat came from the Gambia Navy.
Did it come from Banjul?
Right.
So you crossed over, left Barra, crossed over to Banjul.
Yes.
Where did you go when you got to Banjul?
We went to the Navy.
And can you tell us what happened when you got there?
Upon arrival at the Navy, of course, yes, we met some of the Navy personnel there, but the situation was a little bit chaotic because nobody knows what was happening. I mean, nobody knows, what was actually going on. Then Sam Jiba.
Sorry to interrupt you. You said it was a bit chaotic. Can you just tell us what your observations were?
Yes, because soldiers were moving about. You see soldiers on board vehicles moving, coming to the Navy and then going out, while some personnel of the Navy were on standby. So immediately when we arrived there, Sam Jiba, in fact, contacted Major Sahar then, who, in fact, came back and then relayed the message to us that, yes, from the commander, that we are to remain at Navy for a while.
Can you tell us how long you spent at the Navy headquarters?
I think we spent about 2 days.
And during these 2 days, what did you do?
No, we were just there on standby.
Did Yankuba Toure finally appear at some point?
Yes. The very day that we arrived, Yankuba came later, and then his mission was to come and then confirm if we have actually crossed. So when he confirmed that, he left, and from that very day we could not, I for one, I did not in fact set my eye on him until when I heard that he was Secretary of State.
You initially informed us that it was Jiba who was actually the leader of the group. He was senior to Toure at the time.
Yes.
But it seems as you approached Barra and after the news came out about the coup from Yankuba Toure, he seemed to take a more prominent role. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what you believe was the reason why he took that prominent role despite having a senior officer in the group?
You see, like I said, when the news was broke, actually, Sam Jiba have already made up himself. That is, he has already zeroed it in his mind. That is to say, he is not part of it. So it is based on that. He tend to, fan back. So Yankuba, knowing fully well what was happening, and then somebody who has been in touch with whosoever is concerned around there, was so active in trying to make sure that at least, what he yearned for has been achieved. So that is getting himself in Banjul.
So what you're trying to say is that Sam Jiba took a back seat and allowed Yankuba to lead the way.
Because he was never prepared to involve himself. That's what I understand.
When Yankuba Toure came to the Navy headquarters, Did he give you any information about what was going on?
When he came in, he went inside. First, before going inside, he greeted us, and then just to confirm that, he said he's just coming here to confirm that we've actually crossed. Then he went inside for a couple of minutes, then he went back.
And at this point, you had not heard any information about Yankuba Toure or anything that happened in relation to him?
No. Immediately when he left, that was the end of the story.
Okay. Can you tell us, after you left the Navy headquarters, where you went?
When we left the Navy headquarters, together with Sam Jiba, we went to the State House.
When you got to the State House, what happened?
When we got to the State House, then the State Guard commander was SP Mendy, late. Then he had a tete-a-tete with Sam Jiba. So Sam Jiba came back and told us that, okay, we are to be part of the QRF, So
can you tell us what the QRF was?
The QRF is like quick reaction force, like it's like a standby force. Men that are placed on standby for any quick reaction. So this is why it is called quick reaction force.
Can I just take you back a little bit? If you can just go over and tell us how long you actually spent at the headquarters, the Navy headquarters.
Like I said, I think we spent 2 days there. 2 days.
So you left the Navy headquarters, went to State House. Yes. You were attached to the QRF.
Yes.
And where was Sam Jiba at this point?
Sam Jiba, immediately when we entered the State House, he was with SP. But along the line, we were made to understand that he was asked to return back to Farafenye. Because since when we parted, he was with SP, then that was when I last saw him, me personally.
Are you saying that you remained with the QRF?
Yes, we were at the QRF, at the State House there, together with other soldiers.
Did you see Yankuba Toure?
Oh, no. No.
Did you receive any information from anyone whilst you were at the State House?
About Yankuba Toure?
About anything that is of significance.
All right. When we arrived at the State House, the first person that approached me was Kopul Kasama. We call him Imam. Because we are close friends, sort of like army friends. He was the one who approached me and then tried to explain to me what happened, because he knew that I was in Farafenye. Seeing me on the ground, he knew definitely I'm, a new guy on the ground. So he was trying to explain to me what transpires, from, day before yesterday to that day. And then he asked me if I can go and then meet the council members. I said, for what? He said, no, the council members are there, you can go and meet them, because a lot of people have been going there to meet them. I said, no. He said, no, if you go there and then meet them, if they know that you are here, you could be promoted. I said, no. That is it is not part of my plans. I don't think I'm interested in meeting them. So he told me that he himself was promoted from a corporal to a staff sergeant. I said, okay, it's well and good, fine. Then he went furthermore to ask if I have a reserve rank, because then I was a staff sergeant. I told him, yes, I have another rank, but it is in my bag. Maybe you can check me later. So, okay. Then later on, he came, for the rank. Then I took it out and gave it to him.
Do you know whether he was given any ranks when he had actually been promoted by the council members?
Do I know? Say it again, sir, please.
Was he given any ranks?
No. He was not wearing a rank. He only told me that he got promoted, along with some other soldiers whom in fact, I saw carrying ranks. Very strange, because like a lance corporal carrying a sergeant rank. So it became so strange to me, and then I tend to believe on what he told me.
And that is why he was actually asking for your ranks, because you were sergeant at the time.
I was a staff sergeant.
Can you tell us whether the reason why he asked you to go and see the council members was for you to have favors or to get some favors from them, which included obviously being promoted?
That is never my style. For me, I believe on, sweating before getting it. So this is why when he approached me, I said, which kind of this thing is this? I said, well, no, I'm not interested. So if they are out there promoting people, it's not a good find. But I don't think it is necessary for me to go and meet them.
Yes, the question was that whether that was the case, that if you had gone and actually met them, then you would have been promoted.
I don't know.
Can you tell us, you mentioned you mentioned the fact that you were actually given information. When you went to State House, you were given information about the events that happened from 22nd day of July, 94, the day of the coup, which was about 2 days, I believe, prior to the day that you came to State House. Can you give us more detail about exactly what you were told?
He was explaining. Yes, it's like he was trying to tell me where they started from Yundum, coming down to the State House, that there was no, hassling on the way. They came, entered the Banjun, and then came to the State House freely like that. There was no obstacle here and there. And then they took over the State House with no fighting, very peaceful. So these were the words he was trying to, put across.
You mentioned that you remained at State House at the QRF. Who did you remain there with?
I was there with John Gomez, Ansumana Tamba, with a couple of soldiers, together with the soldiers that we met at the QRF. It's just like we've added their strength to be part of the QRF.
What were your duties at the State House with the QRF whilst you were stationed there?
We were never assigned to any duty. We were just there.
What were your observations about your surroundings or the environment that you were in?
To be realistic and then to tell you the fact, when we came to the State House as a trained soldier, for me, it's like the situation was, one, chaotic. Two, there was a high level of uncertainty on the soldiers, because it's like they don't know what is going to happen next. So to an extent, even like if you observe during daytime, you see a lot of soldiers in the State House, but during nighttime, you don't see anybody. Apart from those, soldiers who are detailed to take up the, guard post, you don't see anybody. They will just disappear. So you can see the level of uncertainty, because they are not sure what was going to happen next.
You were also at State House, or rather, should I ask, how long were you actually at State House?
I was at the State House, actually, I cannot vividly remember how many months or how many weeks, but I could remember moving out of the State House during the month of either August or early September, redeployed out.
So you were there for at least a month?
Yes. Yes.
During the month that you were at State House, a lot of activities were happening.
Very
Detention of certain council members,
Yes.
people being arrested and detained, ministers. Do you know anything about what happened in those situations?
Actually, like I said, when we were there, it's like we were not assigned to any this thing, task. We were there just, as QRF, personnel of the QRF.
So what did you do next after you left the QRF after a month or so?
One day we were called by SP, that is the State Guard Commander, SP Mendy, but we are redeployed that we should go to the headquarters. We should report at the headquarters. So we went to the headquarters. The first person that we met was Sergeant Ja, whom we reported to, and then he asked us to, report to the Army Commander, because when we went there, we explained, the story to him.
Just explain who you meant by, or who you mean by we.
Myself, John Gomez, we went to the headquarters and then we met Otuja. Then when we explained our story to him, he referred us to the Army Commander. Then, that is Bejo Baji, yes, Bejo Baji, Maudu Baji. Then we reported there, and he welcomed us. That is, initially he briefed us about the current situation. That is, yes, the junta have taken over, and there is actually a military to take over in the country. So the plan at the headquarters at this moment is how to get the soldiers back to the barracks, and then make sure that there is total orderliness. And the command realized that myself, John Gomez, and then I were both at the State House together with Ansumana Tamba. So based on that, he said, well, according to their plan, is that we cannot be at the same place, knowing our area of responsibility as drill instructors and then so forth, that they intend to redeploy us to battalions so that we can be appointed as RSMs. So on that note, initially John Gomez was transferred to Farafenye. Then Ansumana was made to stay. Then I was moved to Yundum. So this is how I was transferred to Yundum.
You mentioned that Lieutenant Colonel Momodu Baji was the commander of the army at the time.
Yes.
Was he the first army commander after the military takeover?
He was the first interim commander they appointed. He was the first person they have appointed.
So you were asked to return to the barracks, and you were deployed to various places, and you were deployed to Yundum in particular.
Yes.
What was your position, or what was your assignment there at Yundum?
Right. Like I said, based on the information from the Army Commander, that the plan is for us to be appointed as unit RSMs. So actually, when I moved down to Yundum, then the commanding officer was Basiru Baro, and then the RSM was Sergeant Yankabare. So
what was Basiru Baro's rank at the time?
Lieutenant Basiru Baro.
Proceed, please.
All right. So when I reported to Yundum, first my point of call was in the RSM's office. So I met Sergeant Yankabare, who told me that yes, they got the information that I'll be reporting there. Then he escorted me to the CO, that is Lieutenant Baro. And Lieutenant Baro here, it happens that he was my badge mate. We trained together. But I knew him before we joined the army. Then he was working at the civil aviation. Right.
Can you just tell me, you said Barrow was your batchmate.
Yes.
He was a lieutenant at the time, is that correct?
Yes.
And you were a sergeant?
Staff sergeant.
Staff sergeant. Can you tell us why the difference in ranks? How come he was senior to you?
You know, Basiru Barrow, when he was at the civil aviation, I think he was an engineer, sort of. So it is based on that trait that he came into the army. And also it coupled up with his qualification, education background. And it is based on, because he left a position at the civil aviation to come and join the army. And those days, the army needed engineers at that time. So, although he rose through the ranks also, not that he came and then he was given a lieutenant. He was promoted as an NCO, and then he went up to the rank of Sergeant Major. Then from Sergeant Major, he was commissioned to become an officer.
Was he promoted after the coup?
Basiru Barrow. Anyway, I'll find out.
What about the other officers that you met in Yundum? Were they given accelerated promotions after the coup?
No, sorry. Let me come back to Basiru Barrow. Basiru Barrow was never promoted after the coup. He was promoted before the coup. Sorry, to correct it. And then when I reported at Yundum and met Nyankabare then escorted me to meet the CEO. That is Lieutenant Barrow. So when I went there, in fact, he welcomed me and then expressed gratitude that I'm coming to join them, because knowing that we are batchmates, in fact, I call him class. So he briefed me about the activities in the units and expressed, interest in my contribution towards the development of the camp. And thereafter, he now called Jibril Sey. Jibril Sey, Lieutenant Sey, was then the OC admin company stroke battalion headquarters. Then Sey came in and he also introduced me to him. Say we know each other well before, and then asked Say to, take me to his office so that we can start from there.
Did Kabara explain any issues they had at Yundum or any problems they were encountering with the soldiers at the time which they needed your assistance with?
Actually, Nyankabare, during his briefing, the issues that he raised were the problems they had in harmonizing the former TSG personnel with the GNA personnel. And secondly, to the tax of the unit in terms of security, because they were covering a very wide range. They used to deploy troops up to Bonto transmitter, and then also with other areas like the airport, Abuko Art Station, and then also with the council members, that is the security, and then also the patrols that they normally conduct on daily and night basis. Thereafter, they briefed me about the welfare of the troops on the ground, actually. He told me about it.
Can we concentrate on the harmonization of the soldiers? You mentioned that they were from different backgrounds. Can you explain these different backgrounds and what issues rose up as a result of that?
All right. What I mean by that is, the Zandarmeri, the TSG personnel were trained as, police. Then for the soldiers, they are trained combatant training. They receive combatant training. So the TSG, they are, more into law and minor police duties than the military. So having this, different background of training, bringing them together, it requires a lot of effort. So that's what it means.
Was there any issues with lack of discipline, lack of orderliness, or lack of regimentation within the barracks, within Yundum barracks, due to the fact that the gendarmerie soldiers who were incorporated there came from a different discipline?
One, regimentation, that was a problem. Discipline, well, my short term with Nyanka Bare before I took over fully, I did not had him mention anything with regards to lack of discipline. But with the issue of regimentation, yes, he made mention of that. And then also getting them together was like a challenge, simply because, the challenge is that he was a sergeant. And here we have a situation where you have warrant officers, class 1, class 2, from the defunct TSG, coming to join. And then a sergeant is there acting as RSM. So that was a little bit, a little bit degree of, challenge that he was encountering there.
You mentioned that Kabara was the acting RSM when you came to Yundum, and were you to take over from him?
Yes. Immediately when I received the briefing from Lieutenant Jibril Say, I went with him, Nyankabare, to his office, where in fact he briefed me like I said earlier on. After the briefing, actually, I allow him to continue the admin bit of it, whilst I observed what was happening. Then immediately when I took over from him, after some couple of days, I started it. But Lieutenant Mabaro, in fact, was quick to prompt, me that I cannot be, carrying a staff sergeant rank and then appointed, an RSM. So that was the time he instructed Lieutenant Say to give me a warrant officer rank and then be acting, RSM. But if in that warrant officer class 2 rank was an acting, rank. So this is how he, in fact, he elevated me to act in that capacity.
Can you tell us what the roles and responsibilities of an RSM are in the Army? Just briefly.
Yes.
Don't go into much detail.
All right. RSM is like if we move out of the military institution and going back to our local area, it's like if you talk about a village and then you said the Alcalo one. Now coming back to the military, the RSM is the person responsible for discipline and orderliness in a military barracks. He enforces discipline. 2, RSM is the main link man from the command and the troops, because you cannot move to the command without passing through the RSM. 3, RSM ensures that the daily routine of a unit are observed in an orderly manner. RSMs also make sure that the welfare of the troops are looked into. RSM also observes whatever goes goes in the camp and advise the commanding officer for decision making. So it's like, then the last but not the least, RSM, serves as the ears and the eyes of the commander, besides the duty officer in a military barracks, because the duty officer, once his commander is away or like he closes from work, he takes place of the duty, he represents the duty officer.
Looks like your role as RSM was very important as a liaison between the soldiers and the command. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
After you handed over to Kabare, can you tell us where Kabare went?
I took over from Kabare.
Sorry. Took over and
Yes, when I
Kabare
took
handed over to you. Where did he go after that?
Yes, when I took over, when I took over from young Kabare, he was redeployed to the companies as a platoon sergeant.
He was still within Yundum. He was not redeployed to
Yes.
another camp.
Yes, he was within Yundum.
Can we move on to November 11th, the events surrounding November 11th? Just tell us what you were doing before the November 11th date. Were you preparing for anything in particular?
Yes, November 11, coincides with the unit's preparation to perform the usual annual Remembrance Parade.
Can you tell us what the Remembrance Parade was?
All right. Remembrance Parade, it's a solemn parade that is always mounted or performed to, remember the fallen soldiers, be it during wartime or normal death. And it is normally performed in the second Sunday of November. So this particular one was scheduled to take place on the 13th of November 1994.
Kindly tell us what preparations you were making in relation to that event.
Like I said, we were preparing for the parade. In a sense, we started rehearsal. Normally, a parade is mounted. And before we mount the parade, we do embark on rehearsal. And at that particular time, I was the one responsible for the rehearsals. I'll first of all ensure that the men are provided, they are available for the parade, and then also the officers are available. So in a nutshell, like the composition of the parade, I have to make sure that it is completed.
Can you tell us who was supposed to be part of the parade?
Actually, the composition of the parade is like 6 officers and the 96 other ranks. And these 96 other ranks, in fact, includes even, senior NCOs, senior non-commissioned officers.
During this time, you were also responsible for the drill.
Yes.
Aspect. You were
Yes.
actually instructing the men in drill. Were you actually assisted by anybody?
Very well. That time, Alaji Kanye was one of my drill instructors that I normally rely on, because I use him to at least, orientate the personnel from other services, that is the personnel from the TSU, sorry. And I assigned him to take them on extra, hours on drill, so that at least they become acquainted with our standard.
You're saying that the soldiers that had a gendarmerie background were not very good with drill and parade.
Not all of them, some.
Okay. And as a result, you assigned Alaji Kanyi to take
Yes.
them on extra classes to
Yes.
improve.
Yes.
During the times when you were doing the rehearsals for the Remembrance Day Parade, can you tell us if you noticed anything strange about the behavior of the men?
Actually, to be frank with you, I had a very tough time during that time because first, not with the men. The men were always available and then ready for the rehearsal. But my problem lies with the officers, because actually the officers, their attitude towards that particular, parade rehearsals were definitely not satisfactory and then unbecoming of officers.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I think we'll stop there for today so that we can give a chance to the commissioners to ask any questions, if necessary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I hand over the witness to you?
Thank you very much, Counsel, and thank you very much, Officer Sanya. Do we have any questions from commissioners? If not, we will wait till tomorrow. We continue and then pose some questions. If there are no other points, we would end the meeting and see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. Quick one.
Boasts dynamic style and comfort coupled with best-in-class safety and technical features. The sporty Tigo 7 comes fully loaded with sunroof, Bluetooth connectivity, 360-degree angle cameras, reverse camera screen, reverse sensors, 6-speed automatic gearbox and only 4 cylinders petrol engine. The 2019 Sherry Motors QQ is one of the biggest selling mini cars in the world. It is a 4-cylinder saloon